So quite recently, whilst having a look around YouTube, I came across a plugin that really caught my attention. Now this is Quantum by WAVESFACTOry, and essentially it's a transient processor. Now what Quantum does is it splits your incoming signal into its attack and sustain portions, and then allows you to process them independently of each other. And all of this is done in one plug-in interface, which I think is very neat. The kicker is though, if you want to buy it, it'll cost you €150. Now, can we do what Quantum does using only free plugins? Well, I gave it a go. So first I'm going to let you hear what I've done, and then we're going to have a look at my setup. So what I've got for you here is the original drum loop, unaffected. Then I've got a version as affected by Quantum, and then of course I got a version that I used my free plugins setup on. We're going to start with the original, the unaffected, of course. Here we go. Okay, let's have a look at my setup then. So first of all, Quantum, as mentioned already, splits your incoming audio into its separate attack and sustain portions. So for all intents and purposes, it creates two separate tracks within the plugin itself. So of course, for my setup, I needed to create two tracks as well. So if you look at the blue tracks over here, I've got a track labelled attack and one labelled sustain. I've also set up a group bus for the two of them. So on my attack track, I started off with an instance of Transpire, which is one of my favourite transient processors. On here, I turned the sustain all the way down, because I only want the attack in here. And I also turned the sensitivity all the way up. Now, even after doing this, I still found that I had a bit too much of the sustain left in the attack track. So I opened another instance of Transpire and I actually set it up identically, and this gave me a far better result. On the sustain side of things, I used the same plugin, Transpire, and yet again found myself actually using two of them. This time turning down the attack portion and turning up my sensitivity all the way, and of course I did that twice, and yet again this gave me a far better result. If we look back at Quantum, I kept it quite simple. I used three plugins on both the attack and sustain portions. So I've used an enhancer, an EQ and a compressor. Same plugins on the sustain side with slightly different settings, of course. On my free plugins version, for an enhancer I used La Petite Excite and did my best to mimic what I had done in Quantum. For EQ, I used the good old Tone Busters Equalizer version 3, which of course these days is free. And finally, for compression duties, I use this one here, which is Yala by Analog Obsession, one of my favorite compressor plugins. I also use the exact same three plugins for the sustain side as well. So let's remind ourselves again of the differences. I'm going to play it again. I'm going to start with the original unaffected track, and then of course Quantum and the free plugins. Let's start with the original. Now, as you can hear, in the end, the Quantum plugin and my free plugins version actually do sound quite different. However, I can't say that I prefer one over the other. Actually, I quite like both of them. Now, of course, with Quantum, you're using just one track and one plugin, albeit it's got 6 plugins open within it. Whereas with my free plugins version, I've used, for all intents and purposes, 3 tracks and numerous instances of plugins. However, I will say with my free plugins version, basically you can use your own favourite plugins instead of the ones that come with Quantum, which to me is quite a big advantage. So look, what I've done, I've put the links in the description so you can try out this for yourself, see what you think, see what results you get. Whilst you're having a look at the description, there's a link in there for my courses. Please do have a look, see if there's something there that you like. Yet again, thank you for watching my video. I really appreciate you being here. And I'll see you in the next video.